The SEC had a wild week 1. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So the Oklahoma Sooners won 51-3. There are a lot of interesting matchups across the SEC. Let's start with the notable ones really here, Jay. Notre Dame goes down to College Station, beats Texas A&M. What was kind of your reaction to that?
Right. I don't know. John. How'd you feel about it?
Well, one, I picked Notre Dame to beat Texas A&M, so I feel great about that. Made me a little bit of money.
You did. You sure did. You were one of the people that picked Notre Dame. Yeah. And so
you want to give me and Marcus Freeman 2.5 points? Please, I'll take that. I like Marcus Freeman. I think he's a really good coach. And yes, he's a young coach. And yes, he hasn't done everything perfectly. But the dude's a really, really good coach that's going to do a lot of really good things at Notre Dame for a really long time. So that was just a good signature win for them.
Look, man, I'm trying to figure out these people that kept telling me Connor Weigman was going to be good. And that's kind of where I'm just like, every time I think just,
Listen, I didn't think he'd have as bad of a game as he had. Like
he was awful.
Terrible.
I didn't either. Because last season he had those moments where it stuck out. You're like, okay, then maybe so. No, he regressed quickly. Now, granted, I will give props to Notre Dame because I've been hearing all in the offseason that their defense was going to be quite stout, right? I think Watts is back there in the secondary, considered one of the best DBs in the country in general. And so I was like, okay, they'll probably have a really good defense. Marcus Freeman is really good at that. He did well, in all of his stops. But geez Louise, it just felt like this was just... It felt like Texas A&M did not even watch film. And I love seeing Elko on the sideline cursing, run the ball. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah, they missed Reuben Owens. Let's just put it that way. It's what it feels like.
Well, what's crazy is, one, Mike Elko, don't you have a headset and can't you tell them to run the ball, or do you just not use headsets? That was kind of my observation.
He was wearing a headset. That's the funny part. I guess I don't know. I guess it wasn't relayed.
You want them to run the ball. I don't know. Georgia was a 13.5 point favorite over Clemson in Atlanta and beat the Tigers by 31 points. We were talking before the show. Georgia is a team on a mission. I think they're going to go undefeated this year and win the national championship.
Yeah, So to me, what this feels like for Oklahoma is that if my prediction of them going to the SEC championship game does hold true, our defense is going to have to really be stout and healthy if we're going to go up against this Georgia team, because Beck looked comfortable, fast, physical. And the funny thing is, Clemson did very good up until after half. That's when their offense forgot how to play football and Georgia's defense turned up. They turn up a notch. I mean, it was 6-0 at the half. So you're like, okay, this is going to be a good game. It may end up being like 20-13 and we're going to be, no. It's just Georgia turned on the afterburners and Clemson did not have the depth to handle it. And just the attrition started getting them. They looked like they were tired and it was just, they were getting picked apart. That to me is for Oklahoma. If we make it up there, we're going to have to be prepared to be able to go 3 deep and keep pressure not only on Beck, but not let those wide receivers cook us. Or the run game, because that run game was just destroying Clemson in the second half. So, yeah, they're looking like they're just going to walk right into the college football playoff bye week and not even look back. I think everyone in front of them is going to hopefully they steamroll everybody up until the last week of the season, and then they start feeling like down and they start looking tired, and then we can just push them over the ledge in the SEC championship game.
It'd be nice, but if they can make it to this, if they make it to the SEC title game undefeated, I don't think there's anybody in the SEC that's going to stop them. Anyway,
I concur.
Unless it's Oklahoma. USC LSU, the Sunday night game. We're not going chronologically here. We're going by like order of importance here. USC LSU, man, LSU had a chance inside the 15-yard line, under 2 minutes to play, 1st and 10. And, hey, they get a nice little chunk on first down, maybe 3-4 yards, and then just forgot what they were doing altogether. On second down, they tried to run a little swing pass out to the running back, and Garrett Nussmeier just buries it into the ground. Like he looked like he was trying to spike the football. And then on third down, you get the procedural penalty. So you lose the down anyway. But
that was
his answer to that was to not call the timeout, which he almost did, but just to throw it into double coverage and had no chance of coming down with it.
John, it's more of the decision making in that game just felt bad, right? And I say that in this light. Why did they not kick a field goal on that first drive on 4th and goal? Why did they get greedy thinking that it would be okay to go ahead and just go for the touchdown on 4th down, and then they missed it? They kicked the field goal. This whole game is different. This whole game plays out into a different look, right? And it's mainly because you're up 3-0, and if the game plays the same as it did when USC finally scored, you're up 23-20, and instead of you're trying to kill clock, and then they have to go with a game-winning drive, which would have been a heck of a lot better situation than, everything else that played out in that game. I hated the decision of doing that early, especially because they were barely moving in the goal line anyway. It looked like they were struggling to even get yards. Gotta say,
Texas.
Yeah, gotta say, it looked like Riley's got himself a little bit of a defense to start, right? Or LSU is just not as good as everybody's trying to predict them to be. Because I promise you, that offensive line did not look like a stonewall like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to give D'Anton Lynn some credit. I think the dude's a really good defensive coordinator, so I think there's a chance that USC could have a good defense. And we heard reports of this offseason, them taking strength and conditioning seriously and trying to bulk up a little bit. So if that's the case, maybe USC is who we saw on Sunday night. However, LSU I don't think is going to be as good as, or at least I don't think they're as good right now as everybody expects them to be. I think by the end of the season, when Oklahoma plays them, they could be as good as the a top 15 team in the nation by that point. But right now, I think they still got some things to work on. Some other notable game here: Florida, Miami. Okay, I tooted my horn early, and I picked Notre Dame over A&M, but I also picked Florida to beat Miami. So I'm also going to punch myself in the gut on that one.
Give me that one. I took Miami in that game, and I knew that Cam Ward was going to be a problem. And he was even more of a problem than I even predicted. He is good, right? To me, is when he settled. Like I talked about him a lot when I did the Bleacher Report show, and we talked about Washington State. Every game I picked him because dude is just dynamic. Whenever he's not only in control, but he's got the talent around him, right? At a certain point, Washington State just didn't have the talent to keep up what they were doing. Miami's got that. They've got all the bodies that he need, and boy, was he showing out. He looked poised. He looked calm. He looked like no matter what Florida was going to try to do, he was just like, I'm good. He's going to be a problem in the ACC this season, and heck, if he keeps that up, they're winning the ACC because Florida State's already down in the dumper, and Clemson, they may not be able to handle him at all this season.
Yeah, Miami might go undefeated this year.
Yeah, they have a chance,
but they might. Cam Ward's really, really good. Mario Cristobal is a good recruiter. And so it was just a matter of time until he kind of had that thing up and running. It's just a matter of, making sure everything fit together. And it sounds like and seems like right now they've got the right guy at the helm with Cam Ward to lead the way. Virginia Tech, another one of my picks, and probably most 99% of the people in the country picked the Hokies to cover the spread against Vanderbilt. But Clark Leah, Diego Pavia, they got something cooking right now at Vanderbilt. That was a really, really, really good win for them.
They're going to be in a pain in a lot of teams' side. They're going to be throwing in some sides this season in the SEC. Look, I know we love to bag on Vanderbilt. I mean, it's always been a running joke. But if they can get close to the James Franklin era where they're super physical and they've got a solid quarterback, they're going to be a problem in the SEC. If they may not win a lot of games, but they're going to be annoying to a lot of teams. If anything, the most free money you was going to get was taking Vanderbilt over the 2.5 wins. They're going to win 3 games, no problem.
Yeah, they're definitely going to win over 3. It was really kind of fun to watch Diego Pavia a little bit because he's exactly the quarterback they needed. Someone who can pick up a few yards on the ground. He can hit the throws he needs to hit. He's not going to turn the football over. And that gives them a great opportunity to win. If you can just keep moving the chains, which is what they did, just little by little by little by little, they just drove the football down the field on the Hokies. and were able to convert it into touchdowns. Man, it was just a really, really impressive performance, especially even after going up big in the first half and then falling behind late in the second half and then being able to hold on and come through in overtime. So it just showed a lot of resiliency. So there were a lot of like bye games this week in the SEC, not ones that were, huge matchups aside from the ones that we talked about. Was there a performance out there, Jay, that you thought was really impressive or the most impressive in a bye game?
I'd say Nico Yamaliava went out there and showed us why he was considered a top quarterback in his class, right? 314, 3 touchdowns. He looked very comfortable out there. And if anything, when you're playing a game like a team like Chattanooga, who, nobody really knows about, the goal is to just go out there and look and feel comfortable. And he did. Like, the pressure really wasn't there. He was putting the ball in some good spots. I think Nico had himself a solid game. So I'm really intrigued to see what they look like next week against North Carolina State.
I got a couple. I'm going to start with Jackson Dart because that's the obvious one. Dude started his Heisman campaign off with a thunderous start, almost 500 yards of total offense, 6 total touchdowns. But then the other one was really, really fun. Jalen Milroe is going to be a huge beneficiary of Kalen DeBoer. He threw the ball 9 times. It was 8 of 9 for 200 yards. He averaged 22 yards per attempt. Unreal. This is going to be like Jalen Hurts coming to Oklahoma in 2019, I think, with Jalen Milroe. So just a lot of really fascinating results out there this weekend.
One more, though, too. You got to give it to our old guy over there, Jeff Lebby in Mississippi State. Blake Shapen out there, 15 for 22. Right? He did not look like the Blake Shapen from Baylor.
Right.
15 for 22, 47, 3 touchdowns. He kind of looked good. And he ran the ball 44 times for a tutty. 44 yards for a tutty with 7 carries. They look a lot more interesting than I thought. That 65-yard touchdown to start the game was like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Okay. Well, and of Oklahoma note, Auburn beat Alabama A&M 73-3, and Peyton Thorne threw for 322 yards. So if you're expecting the Peyton Thorne from last year, maybe we're getting the Peyton Thorne from 3,000-yard passing at Michigan State. Peyton Thorne. We'll see. Oklahoma will find out exactly what Auburn's going to look like here in a few weeks when they travel down to Auburn, Alabama on September 28th for that first SEC road game. Make sure you're tuned in. Jay's going to be there. Make sure you're tuned in to Locked On Sooners as we get you ready for Houston this week and Tulane the next week. SEC play coming not long after. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all platforms and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you get your social media fix. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner.